The chief executive of British Airways owner IAG has said the airline may have to delay the return of more flights following the Prime Minister's statement. Speaking to the Transport Select Committee, Willie Walsh said the proposed 14-day quarantine on international arrivals would cause more harm to the already battered industry. Well, the General Secretary of the British Airline Pilots Association is Brian Strutton, who joins us now. Brian, welcome to you. Willie Walsh is not happy.
Well, he's not happy about this 14-day quarantine proposal from government. I don't think anybody in the aviation industry is happy about that. It's a real body blow to the industry, which is already reeling from the loss of revenues because nobody's flying at the moment. And we haven't seen the details of this proposal. We don't know why it's being introduced now, whereas it hasn't been up till now. Nobody knows how it's going to work. Nobody knows what other measures are going to be put in place. It's a real setback for an industry that was already struggling.
Do you think it's possible that some of those other measures might not be used in combination with isolation, but maybe just used in their own right? So, for instance, reconfiguring the cabins so people are socially distanced, face masks, perhaps temperature checks.
Well, I think there's a number of things being discussed, and we haven't had any of the detail of that shared with us. We've barely had a chance to even think about some of these ideas that the government's been floating. But the point is this. They will all add up to problems for aviation. They will all cause delays. There'll all be reasons for passengers not to fly. That's going to cause inefficiencies. You've already heard not just Willie Walsh, people like Michael O'Leary saying we're not going to fly inefficiently. If the government wants aviation to get back flying and government wants to impose restrictions, then government should fund the bill for that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that the government accepts the argument that this is a strategic industry? If you want to fly the best brains from around the world into the country, if you want to keep your tourism sector afloat in the medium term, people have got to be able to get here.
I'm not convinced that government has got the message, actually. You hear the Department for Transport and ministers talking about supporting other parts of the transport sector. But when it comes to aviation, everything seems to be stacked against airlines and airports and flying in general. So I'm not sure government does get the message. It's vitally important. Half of our international trade in freight goes through airlines. Now, we fully pull out of Brexit at the end of this year. So coming out of the COVID crisis is one thing. Are we prepared for our trade on the world stage without a viable UK aviation industry? No, we won't be. And government's really got to get a grip on this situation, or we won't be able to compete. It's as simple as that.
Brian, can you give us a sense of conversations perhaps you're having with your members, pilots who are looking at this landscape and thinking, actually, I'm not sure my career as a pilot has a long-term future. There are structural changes going on here in the very nature of international aviation, which will be perhaps see out my career. So it's time to look at something else.
Yeah, so in the past couple of weeks, we've had announcements of 23,000 job losses in the aviation sector. BA's announced it wants to release 1,100 pilots. Virgin has announced a significant number as well. Ryanair talking about job losses, and so will other airlines as well. And yes, there will be pilots and also potential people who want to join the pilot profession who will be thinking, is this really for me? Because after all, to train to be a pilot, you have to invest £100,000 of your own money, no student loan, no other kind of support. And a lot of people are going to be saying in the future, is this a profession I want to get into with these risks? And that means that we will then start to hit shortages. It might seem all right to release some surplus people now if the airlines are downsizing, but how are they going to recover from that with the damage that's being done? I think it's a very serious question indeed, and that's why I've been calling for government to lead an holistic approach for the whole industry to come out of this together in a way that suits aviation and the UK economy.
Brian Strutton is the General Secretary of the British Airline Pilots Association. Brian Strutton, appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.